1917. Russia's gold gone. What really happened? Deep within Russia lay the world's largest gold reserve.
At the dawn of the 20th century, Russia possessed one of the largest gold reserves on Earth. As Europe moved toward war, Russia stood confident, believing its vast wealth could sustain any conflict.
Hidden beneath the imperial capital lay a mountain of gold, the financial backbone of a vast empire.
In a world tied to gold, wealth meant trust, and trust meant power.
As the war dragged on, gold began flowing out faster than it could be replaced. To sustain the war, Russia printed money faster than gold could support it.
As prices soared, paper money lost meaning, and daily life became a struggle.
By 1917, the empire's confidence had turned into quiet fear.
Hunger turned frustration into fury, and the streets began to boil. When workers stopped working, the empire's engines stalled!
Get back in line! Execute the order! We will not go! We've had enough of this war!
In February 1917, the Russian Empire finally collapsed. With a single signature, an empire came to an end. A new government took power, but authority remained fragile. As chaos spread, one question mattered most. Where would the gold go? Under cover of darkness, Russia's gold began moving east. Once the trains left the capital, control became uncertain. Some of Russia's gold crossed borders and never returned.
In October, a new force seized the heart of power.
The gold they expected to find was already gone.
What remained was far less than anyone expected.
For the new regime, gold meant survival. Russia was torn apart, and the gold became a prize. Opposing forces rallied, determined to reclaim Russia from revolution. In Kazan, vast reserves of gold changed hands once again. Gold bought bullets, and bullets prolonged the war. In the chaos, gold began to vanish, piece by piece. As the tide turned, retreat became unavoidable. Entire shipments vanished without explanation. Legends of lost gold began to spread across Siberia.
Some believed the gold lay beneath the ice of Lake Baikal.
When the white leadership fell, the gold was already gone.
Many suspected the gold had crossed borders for good.
The Bolsheviks emerged victorious, but the treasure was diminished. Without gold, the ruble collapsed, and trust vanished with it.
Russia's imperial gold was quietly absorbed into the world's markets.
Money had failed. Survival depended on trade and trust between neighbors.
From collapse, a new system began to take shape.
By the early 1920s, only a fraction of Russia's original gold reserves remained under state control.
Attempts to account for the missing gold produced no clear answers.
Some Russian gold entered foreign markets, where it was melted and integrated into other reserves.
Without sufficient reserves, the ruble collapsed and money lost practical value.
With money unreliable, people turned to barter to survive.
The Soviet government rebuilt the economy under centralized control.
After the Civil War, the Soviet government focused on rebuilding gold reserves through domestic mining.
Information about gold reserves was tightly controlled and rarely disclosed.
No definitive account of the missing gold was ever produced.
As years passed, once debated events became summarized within official records.
The country moved forward under a system shaped by collapse and reconstruction. Outside Russia, researchers and officials continued to study the fate of the gold.
Most estimates suggested that hundreds of tons of gold were never recovered.
In some regions, stories of hidden gold never disappeared.
Despite decades of research, no complete explanation emerged. Today, historians agree that much of the gold was spent, sold, or lost during years of conflict. The events surrounding Russia's gold reserves became a common case study in economic history.
Modern governments manage gold and currency reserves with tighter controls and oversight.
Despite changes in financial systems, gold continues to be held as a reserve asset. Analysts later compared Russia's experience with other financial collapses.
The disappearance of Russia's gold continues to be referenced in discussions of reserves and crisis management.
Outside academic circles, the story was often reduced to brief summaries.
Historians generally agree that much of the gold was spent, sold, or redistributed during war and revolution.
The exact fate of some shipments remains disputed due to incomplete records.
War, evacuation, and corruption contributed to the loss of financial records.
No final ledger exists that fully explains what happened to Russia's imperial gold.
By the late 20th century, most formal investigations had ended. Today's reserves were accumulated long after the events of 1917.
The scale of imperial reserves was never fully restored in the same form.
The episode is occasionally referenced in discussions of reserve management.
Today, the disappearance of the gold is treated as one episode within a much larger historical period.
Russia entered the war with large gold reserves. Over time, much of that gold was spent, moved, or lost during revolution and civil war.
Because records were lost or destroyed, no complete accounting was ever possible.
The disappearance resulted from war spending, foreign payments, transfers during evacuation, and losses during the Civil War.
The imperial gold reserves were drastically reduced, and the pre-war financial system collapsed.
The disappearance of the gold marked the final end of Imperial Russia's financial order.
After the revolution, the Soviet state rebuilt its financial system from the ground up.
Unanswered retains. The loss of imperial reserves influenced how the Soviet economy developed over decades.
Official references to the missing gold were brief and infrequent.
Foreign governments followed developments, but never recovered the missing assets.
Today, the disappearance of the gold is considered a closed historical issue.
Over time, daily economic life stabilized under the new system.
No major new evidence surfaced to change existing conclusions. As generations passed, the events became distant history.
Most accounts now follow a broadly accepted explanation.
The disappearance of Imperial Russia's gold remains part of recorded history. The disappearance of Imperial Russia's gold remains part of recorded history.
The loss of imperial reserves reshaped Russia's financial development.
Some claims about hidden gold could never be verified.
Despite the lack of definitive proof, the public fascination with these ancient sites only grows stronger.
The historical record ends without a complete accounting.
More than a century later, the events belong firmly to the past.
Russia entered the war with large gold reserves. Much of that gold was spent, moved, or lost during war and revolution.
The historical record explains much, but not everything.
No new evidence has emerged to change the historical understanding.
The inquiry ends where the records end.
The historical sequence can be traced, but not fully accounted for.
What could be documented remains part of the historical record.
Some losses were never recovered or recorded.
The disappearance of Russia's imperial gold resulted from multiple documented causes.
Beyond this point, history has no further answers. The historical record remains as it is.